Hi everybody, it's Christi Friesen, and I have a secret stone, which is the next project in our Secrets of Polymer Clay. How convenient, right? So join me here in the Fire Mountain Gems and Beads Jewelry Making Studio while we go on a little journey to learn more about polymer clay. And I always figure the best way to learn is just to do it. So if you want to bone up on all kinds of polymer clay knowledge, we got you covered. You can go to the video section, the learning section, and you can find all kinds of projects about polymer clay basics and baking and all that stuff. You can watch the videos in this series that came before, obviously, that tell you more stuff. But right now, we're going to dive right in and make something. None of these things have to be made in any order. All of these are little special things for you to know. What I want to do is show you all the things that polymer clay can do. And it can do a lot of things. So today's little secret is we're going to incorporate a stone cabochon into polymer clay. Doesn't that sound like fun? All right, so I have a couple of samples of what those look like right here. We're going to be making one that sort of looks like this, but then there's some variation here. And both of these feature a really fun stone cabochon. Let me talk about the stone cabochons first. Let's take a look here. We had a lovely little assortment here. Doesn't this look like you just want to eat all of them? They're so delicious. All of these things are things that we can use in this project. We've got some lace agate and some snowflake obsidian, and we also have some man-made stones, which are actually glass, and those look wonderful, like a cat's eye, tiger's eye kind of a look. Those are all great. You can use natural stone, glass, dyed, or solidified, stabilized stone. They all work terrific. One thing we do not want to use, though, is something like this. This is a cameo, but it's made out of resin. And although it looks fantastic and you can use it in other projects, because polymer clay needs the oven to cure, and it's super simple, you get to use your home oven, all the instructions are on the package, piece of cake, but it does have to go in that heat. So that heat would maybe compromise something made out of plastic or acrylic or lucite. So let's stick to a stone or a glass cabochon. Sound good? All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is get our polymer clay ready. Polymer clay just comes in packages, and the packages are solid colors, but the joy of it is mixing to get new colors. So what I'm actually going to do for my background here is I'm just going to mix a couple of things I had lying around and come up with a new color blend. I knew that I wanted this background for my cabochon to look kind of ivory-esque. No real reason, I just like that color. So I'm going to use some white, but I got to make it a little dirty looking because I want some flecks, some specks to kind of go with my stone. So I'm just using a bit of granite, and then I'm using some amber colored clay. But you can use anything, it doesn't really matter. Any clay you've got that you mix, if you like that color and it goes with the stone you've picked, you're golden. So I've got another one of this same little stone here. We're going to use that so we can kind of keep consistent. So first of all, I'm going to pick my stone, and it can be an oval. It can be an oval, or it can be a circle, square. It doesn't really matter, whatever makes you happy. We're going to mix up that clay using your hands or a roller. You put it through the pasta machine, however that works. And as we have done before, and if you're not sure what before is, you've got other projects in this series, go look at them and come on back. But we roll it into the pasta machine just to make a little slab. All right, so that slab is going to go down first, and then our stone is going to sit on that. Now what I want to do is I want to use the clay to hold the stone in place. I don't want to just set it on here and put a few little dabs around it, and then later on the stone falls off. That's awkward. So we're going to use the stone to hold it in place. But I want a little bit of extra insurance. Now, you do not have to do this, but if you happen to have a little bit of this, now this is a really neat thing. This is Lisa Pavelka's Polybonder. Polybonder is a regular super glue, but two things about it that are fun. It's specially formulated for polymer, which means it can go in the oven and still have adhesion when it comes out. A lot of glues, if you put them in the oven to bake, they come out kind of brittle and they don't hold, but this one does. And it also has a nail brush applicator, which quite frankly I like because I am a giant mess when it comes to glues. So I'm just going to put a couple of dabs on the back of my stone. I'll show that to you in a minute with my nail brush applicator. Here we are. And you see how I've just got a couple of little bits there. Now the trick is not to glue your fingers together. That's always awkward to do, so don't do that. I'm just going to shove that on there and just let it grab onto the clay. That just gives it a little added protection. Like I said, if you've got it, great. If you don't, it's going to be okay. Now I'm going to cut around this stone because I want to create a bezel out of the polymer clay, which is great fun, isn't it? And I can use a needle tool to cut, or I can use a craft knife to cut. It really just depends what you've got lying around. Anything that lets you make a little border all the way around is fantastic. So there we go. Save this bits because we're going to use them for things. Why don't I put them out of your face for a minute? And you see how I've made this really fancy border that's perfect? Not. Another thing I love about polymer clay is it's very forgiving, and it doesn't matter if you're a little messy, which I am. I don't mean messy like you've got hair and weird things stuck to it, garbagey messy, but I mean if you're not a perfectionist where everything's perfect, the clay is still your friend. So I'm going to go now and try to make that messiness look a little bit better. So all I'm going to do is use my fingers. Now you can use someone else's fingers, but I always find that very awkward. So use your own fingers and just get this all pinched around here and make it smooth. I'm getting rid of that cut edge, and I'm trying to make it a little bit more even. So I just with the knife and made it all goofy. Now I'm making it a little less goofy. And just mess, press, la-dee-doo. All right, so we see what we've got here. Now we've got a border all the way around there that's softened. The edges are nice and rounded. It's not 100% perfect, and that's okay because I'm going to be putting flourishes around it, so it won't matter. I am going to push this now so that this bit of clay becomes its own bezel. But that's the easiest you've ever said a bezel, huh? Just by shoving it around your rock. The other nice thing that it does, besides holding it into position, is it creates an interesting little border all the way around. So that's why you don't want to go too crazy with that. We want that stone to stand out and be the star of the show. Although it's a secret stone, it secretly loves to be noticed. So let's make sure we see plenty of the stone. All right, so now what we've got to do is we've got to make some interesting embellishments with the clay. Then we're going to highlight that with added stone and bead embellishments. So that's secret number 2. Not only are we learning how to make a stone be captured by the polymer, but we're embedding other stones in a different way than we have done previously in the series. Exciting, right? So I'm going to go back to my little bits of clay, and I'm just going to make little balls and turn those balls into snakes. We've done this little two-tailed snake thing before. I like that shape because that lets me, it has a thickness in the middle and it lets me make little curls around the edge or tuck them in, and they look very pleasing, I think. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to take this little snake that I've got, and it's warm and flexible because I've been touching it, and now I'm going to curl that end up a little bit. See how I just kind of tuck that around to make a loose little curl? And I'm going to put that right about here. I kind of start here first so that I have a little bit of the clay that kind of like is caressing the stone, a gentle little caress, which I think is fun. And then it tucks back in here, so it makes a nice little swoop, which I think is pretty cool. And then I'm going to add a little ball of clay right beside it, just to sort of balance that out. And these are places where I can add interesting stone bits, which I think is always really fun, and beaded bits. Let's get another piece of clay here. Let's make that same snaky thing. There is no right or wrong way to do this, by the way. As you're learning this, if you want to follow it exactly so that yours turns out predictable and cool and you can show all your friends, fantastic. But if you're like, I wonder what it would look like if I put 6 of them over here and I did this over there, go nuts. It's fun. Clay is wonderful to experiment with. If you don't like it, you can smash it up and use it again. So as long as you haven't baked it yet, it's infinitely reusable. All right, so let's tuck this little baby in. How about right here? And maybe just have it come around the outside here. So you see what I'm doing? It's just a very free-form way of making an interesting framing for the piece. Now, one thing I like to do is these little kind of, they're hints of leafy quality. It's not much, it's not really a leaf, but it gives that feel to it. And there's a couple ways to do that. So again, I'm going to go back to a ball of clay, going to roll it to get it warm. We talked about that in one of the other episodes, and we got it nice and warmed up by our hand. I'm going to make a fat snake out of this one so that I can smash it with my fingers. So see, it's not very thick. I've got that smashed, and this is going to make that nifty little leafy thing. Now I could put it here, I could put it down here, wherever it looks balanced to you. If you're not sure, pick it up and move it a couple of places and see what amuses you. As we discussed, pushing it so that clay grabs clay is all you need. Polymer is sticky. It likes to be touching itself and smashing itself, and then it becomes one piece. So as long as you're giving it a little bit of pressure to connect, you're good. All right, so now I want to make that into a leafy looking thing. Let me see. Let's take a look at my various tools around here. I'm going to grab this little funky tool, and I'm going to angle this around so I've got a better angle at it. And I'm just going to push some little indentations right in here to give the appearance of some little lines like a leaf would have. And I can continue on with the edge of my tool and just finish up that leaf. In fact, let me lift that up so I can get underneath it and make sure that it's looking good from all angles. So I've pressed this in like this. Then I've continued by going to the outside edge and making that whole thing have a leafy quality. And do as many of those as amuse you. I am amused by just that one, but you can do more if you like. All right, are you ready? We're going to start adding beads. Now, we have already in this series looked at how we can take a regular bead with a head pin and insert it into the clay. We're going to look at two other ways of inserting things into the clay. And I want to mention at this point that it is important to make sure that the beads that you're incorporating in your polymer clay are not going to melt at the oven. Polymer clay bakes a little under 300 degrees, so anything that can handle that heat for about half an hour, 45 minutes is fine. But just to remember, any glass, any crystal, any stone, any natural cultured freshwater pearls are terrific. Those kinds of products work wonderfully. Anything like lucite and resin, let's stay away from those. All right, so what I've got is my little glass drop bead. I kind of love drop beads. They look like a teardrop. There's a little hole up at the tear tip so that you can put some wire in it. And when you embed it in, you just get the rounded top part, no holes showing. That's why I love them. We're going to use 28 gauge wire. And I got to show you this cool little thing. When I came over here to get all set up for the studio, my helpers showed me this nifty little thing that they have here at Fire Mountain, and I just want you to see it. It's this really little funky elastic bit with a hole in it so that you can pull your wire and it just doesn't go, and you can even undo it if you get too much. How cool is that? So we just need a little snippet of 28 gauge wire. Whether yours is contained or crazy is up to you, but I'm going to take my wire cutters, cut a little bit of that 28 gauge wire, and I am going to insert that just in the hole of my tear bead, my drop bead, and I'm going to pull those two wires together. Now what I usually do is hold that, take my pliers, grab the wires, and twist for all I'm worth. And I'm going to twist up about 1/4 of an inch or so into this little tail. So it's kind of the same thing as with the head pin, right? Only instead of inserting the head pin in a hole, we're twisting the wire to create like the wire tail of a head pin. And just like we did before, we're going to trim off that end, being careful for the ends not to fly off in all directions. And we're going to make a little bend in the tail. If this is all news to you, go back and see what we did earlier and you'll be up to speed. All right, so now I've got a nice little drop bead with an anchor. An anchor lets that bead get locked into the clay so that when it dries, the clay hardens, cures, I shouldn't say dry, cures in the oven, it will grab around that anchor and not pull out, which is what we want. Needle nose tweezers. Those are your friend for inserting little things like this, because if you're like me and you got big giant fingers, sometimes it's hard to try and get it in there with just the fingers, so tweezers can help. So I'm just going to take this little wire and insert this into the clay. And I'm going to push it down a little at a time. There we go. I'm tuck, 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 tuck. Sometimes the stone is in the way, so you have to kind of angle it around so it gets past that stone. And if you've done it correctly, then you've got this wonderful little bead that's encased in the clay, but popping out to give a little bit of fun. All right, so we can put more of those here and there as we wish. But the next thing I really want to do is create a lineup of beads. For that, again, you use a little 28 gauge wire. And I've just got some various seed beads here, glass seed beads, which, as we know, can go in the oven, no problem. And you can just kind of pick up a few of these and put them on your wire. I usually have an assortment by color, so I'll get a green mix that's got different shapes, different sizes, and that way when I come to something like this, I immediately have a nifty little pattern that I can have a lot of variety while putting on the different seed beads. So there we go. Now I already made up a lineup because you know how it is when you're going to show somebody something like this. That is when the seed beads decide, it's migration time, everyone. Let's all just run away. And they do. So I've got them all on here now, so we don't have to worry too much about running away. But this is what we've got. I've got a little lineup here of different kind of beads, some small, some large, some tube, and I'm going to trim and bend the ends. All right, so let's get the extra off of that, and let's bend a little hook in it. And I'll show you this when I've got it bent, because we don't want a lot of extra. We need just enough extra to embed into the clay and stay put, but not so much that you're trying to feed too much wire into the clay, and there'll be a lot of cursing and sadness, and we don't want that. So I'm going to trim both ends and bend my hooks on there. Let's get that going. Okay, I think we are good. Get a little bit more off that end. And any kind of wire cutters or pliers are going to work just fine for this project. You don't need a lot of things to get started with polymer clay. Just a decent pair of wire cutters and pliers, that'll do you for everything. All right, so let me line this up here so you can see what I ended up with. We have got a lineup of beads, not too long, maybe about 1 inch. If you get too crazy, then you have to anchor it in the middle. It's a whole thing. Let's just go with about 1 inch. We've got a little bit of wire showing at both ends, and that it has a hook on both ends. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this end, and I'm going to hold it with my needle nose tweezers right towards the end so that I can see a little bit of the wire and a little bit of the hook, and I'm going to go, where do I want this little guy to be? I think I'm going to just tuck it in right around in here. So I'm going to feed that in so that it's biting into the clay, not just scooching beside the stone, but getting into the clay. All right, and I can press that in. Then I'm going to push all of those beads down. So now they're firmly lined up on that wire, and I'm going to bend my wire tip down just a little bit so it goes in easier, tuck it around, and shove. I do a lot of shoving when it comes to my design work. I find it very satisfying, and it seems to work pretty well. So shoving is good. So I've got that shoved along the side, and now see what we've got? We've got a nice little line of beads that's following the curve of the stone, accentuating the stone a little bit, and just looking kind of fun. Now, when you got this part right here, you'll notice that this comes at kind of a funky angle. If that ever happens, you just take another little piece of clay, make a decorative little niblet, and just press that right on in. That will secure the end and finish up the edge in something that's more pleasant and pleasing. All right, so I have just put a lineup of beads. I've put one of the drop beads. You can put as many of them in as you want. As you can tell on this one, not only do the lineup of beads, but I've got a piece of coral. This one's got several beads. I put a little bit of clay at the beginning of that wire to hold it in there. Really, the sky is the limit. You can't overdo it. Sometimes more is too much, but most of the time more is great. Now, remember how we talked in one of the previous secrets how to use pastel powder to add color? We're going to do that again. I have my pastel powders handy, and now we're going to add them to our piece. And if you remember, all we did was get my little scratching tool right here and my paintbrush right here and start adding. What color would you like to add? Oh, yeah, I think that would look great. So let's do that. I'm going to get to this little turquoise color, and I'm going to scratch a little of that powder, and I'm going to take my brush and dip it in and just start adding a little powder to start making this look exciting. So see how easy that is? This powder is just chalk powder. You can put it straight on. You could use mica powders or other kinds of powders as well, but I love chalk powders in that it gives me a lot of variety so easily. I don't have to do anything or worry about it. It just blends right onto the surface of the clay. No problem. All right, so we've got a little bit there. Now this thing was pretending to be leaf. Why don't we go in and add a little bit of a leaf color to make it a bit more believable? Scratching my powder, grabbing some of that color, and I'm just going to brush it right on the surface. The cool thing about polymer clay is that you can use the colors of the clay, no problem. But you can also make a neutral color like we did here, and then add color by using chalk or other powders. And I find that to be a super exciting way to make a lot of variety with a simple amount of supplies. All right, last little thing, we're going to put a little bit of brown. Going to mix our two browns together here, and we should be perfect. Going to put a little of that in a couple of strategic areas, and I think we'll be golden. All right, let's take a look at how this turned out. Okay, so look at what we've got there. Now we can look it all over and go, oh wait, there's a whole bunch of powder on the stone. Don't sweat it. I'm going to move it away just so you can see, but you don't need to worry about it. It will not stay on the stone, so after it's baked, you can wipe off anything that's somewhere crazy. All right, we've got all of this done. Everything looks great. I put some beads in. I'm happy with what I see. We go bake it. Like I said, you've got ways to bake. It's super simple. It goes in the oven. It gets to temperature for the right amount of time, and it comes out a nice, hardened, finished piece. Okay, so now what? How do we wear this? Let's play with that, shall we? Let's add a brooch back to our finished piece here. All right, so we've got a nice finished piece, and we can add a brooch or pin back to it. And one of my favorite ones to use is this kind of one because it's got a bail on it. And a bail is what you would use to create a pendant. So why not have both? Sometimes you might want to put it on your scarf or your jacket, be styling. Other times you might want to wear it. So this has both of those things. And I'm going to just take this one here, and we're going to add the brooch back. Now I put this on after the front is baked and hardened. And I think you know why. If I was to take this finished thing that we just did and try to flip it over and jam a bunch of junk on the back, it's going to be a mess. And I don't want it to be a mess. So let's get it done, baked, happy, good, and then work on it. So what we need for this is liquid clay. Liquid clay is not glue. It's a clay-to-clay connector. What it actually is polymer clay, super saturated with the flexible agent that makes it flexible. I don't know what it's called. There's some science involved, I'm sure, but it allows me to put new clay onto baked clay and rebake it. Polymer clay can be baked more than once, which is fantastic for adding stuff like this. So all I'm going to do is, first of all, decide which is up. Do I want to wear it like this? Do I want to wear it like this? Only you know. I'm going to go ahead and do it like this. And I'm going to open up my pin back. And then I'm going to take my liquid clay and put just a little, because what I want to do is sandwich. So see how I have a little smear there, just a very tiny bit. I want to sandwich some fresh clay, put the brooch back, and then more fresh clay. So it's kind of like in between. It'll be the filling in our little clay sandwich. So I've got a ball of clay. I've flattened it all out, probably more than I need there. Let's do that. Flat it nice and flat. Press it into the position, push it down so it kind of grabs on the clay. And you'll be able to feel it. When you first push it on there, it'll be all wiggly, wiggly. And then as you push it a little bit more, it'll be like, and when you get to that part, then you've got it. Now I'm going to take my little brooch back and just set it right on, push it down a little bit. And you don't need any more liquid clay at this point because now the fresh clay and the fresh clay can be friends together forever and just smash together. You can use it if you want, but you don't need to. I'm going to take just another little niblet of this and put it on here. And what I want to be able to do is actually make that go all the way over that bar in the middle and connect top and bottom. And then I'm going to blend it with my tools a little bit. So add as you need to. So let's get one of my little tools here and just come back here and make sure everything is blended in. You especially want to be careful right around that pin closure where it kind of goes back and forth here to close the pin into its holder, because if you get a bunch of clay in that area, then it won't be able to close well. So I usually get in there and kind of roll it out of the way. Get everything grabby, but then roll it out of the way. Tools do the blending, and then fingers get rid of tool marks, has always been my experience. And I've put just a little on the back here. Right now it looks very messy. So you can make that more decorative. There's no reason why the back shouldn't also look interesting. So if somebody turns it over back there, they know you're a pro and not a hack. So let's get just a little curly bit in there so it looks more fun and finished. As long as clay is sticking to clay, you're great. And if it's not, use that little liquid clay. So this is where you could sign it. You can blend it in a little more. You can add some more dots and business there to make it look finished. And this is what you end up with. Now it does need to be baked again. Wishful thinking will not just make this harden. You have to get it back into the oven, but it can go a little bit longer. Usually 20 to 25 minutes if you had baked for 45. Each clay varies a little. Read your clay package. Is great. Anyway, bake that again, and then you will be ready to wear your secret stone. Pretty cool, right? Okay, what do you think? This was fun, right? And we learned some new stuff. If you liked it, guess what? Hit that like button. If you want to make sure you never miss another one of these, smash that subscribe button. You know you want to. And what about comments? Is there a special stone you used? Do you think a different color would have worked better? What the heck is a secret stone anyway? Tell us. We want to know. All right, kids, we are going to continue on our journey of polymer clay secrets. I'll see you back here for more fun and excitement. In the meantime, happy creating.